Hello, welcome to this tutorial. In this video, we are going to learn about computing limits at infinity. Okay, I've already made videos about this topic, but in this case, we are going to look at some special problems. Okay, so let's look at what you are going to do. So assuming that I ask you to find the limit as x approaches infinity for e to the power x. Okay, how are you going to go about this question? Okay, so if you have something like this, you can try the direct substitution, okay, which is going to give us e to the power infinity. Okay, let me write this, e to the power infinity. Okay, if you raise e to the power infinity, what you are doing is that you are raising e to the power of what? A very increasingly large number. Okay, so what will happen is that you are going to keep getting what? A very large number. Okay, so at the end, e to the power infinity is just going to give us what? Infinity. Okay, let's take note of this. Okay, so that will be the answer in this case. Okay, what of the limit as x approaches minus infinity for e to the power x? What of this? Okay, so for this also, if you try direct substitution, you are going to have e to the power minus what? Infinity. Okay, all right, and then raising e to the power minus infinity is going to give us a very small value getting close to what? Zero, or let me say zero. Okay, because raising e to the power of negative infinity means that raising e to the power of what? A very large negative value, and then this is going to give us what? Zero. Okay, so at the end this limit will be equal to what? Zero. Okay, let's take note of this. Okay, what of the limit as x approaches infinity, okay, for e to the power what? Minus x. Okay, all right, so what you have here is just like the previous example. Okay, because if you do this, you're going to have e to the power what? Minus infinity. Okay, and then this will give us what? Zero again, just like the previous one. Okay, so what of the limit as x approaches minus infinity for e to the power what? Minus x. Okay, so for this also, if you try the direct substitution, you're going to have e to the power minus what? Infinity. Okay, and then this will be equal to e to the power what? Infinity, which will give us what? Infinity. Okay, so this is how to go about these types of what? Questions. Okay, I taught you this because you will need it in solving some examples. Okay, and I'm going to take you through some of what those examples. So let's go ahead and then look at that. Okay, so I have the first question here, which says that we should find the limit of e to the power 2 minus 4x minus 8x squared, okay, as x approaches infinity. So let's look at how you are going to go about this question. Okay, so if you have such a question, what you have to do is that you can take the limit of the exponent first, then after that you take the limit of the base. Okay, so first of all, we are going to have the limit as x approaches infinity for 2 minus 4x, okay, minus what? 8x squared. Okay, this is what you are going to do first. Then after that, we find the limit as x approaches infinity for the base, which is what? E. Okay, so now let's find the limit as x approaches infinity for 2 minus 4x minus 8x squared. Okay, so if you do this, you're going to have, let's try the direct substitution. Okay, you're going to have 2 minus 4 multiplying infinity, okay, minus 8 multiplying what? Infinity squared. Okay, so if you look at this, we have 2, okay, and then we are subtracting we are subtracting 4 multiplied by what? Infinity from it, and also subtracting 8 multiplied by what? Infinity squared from it. So you see that our answer is going to be negative infinity, right? Because subtracting this very large negative value from 2, okay, from 2 is just going to give us what? A negative value. Okay, so at the end our answer will just be a negative. Okay, so now you know that e is just a number, right? And then it is a constant. Okay, so computing the limit of this e will just give us what? E. Okay, so at the end our limit will be e to the power what? Minus what? Infinity. Okay, and then we learned earlier on that raising e to the power minus infinity will give us a value of what? 0. Okay, so that will be the answer for this question. Okay guys, so I have another example here. Let's try our hands on it. Okay, so you can choose to pause the video and then try your hands on it and then compare the answers afterwards. Okay, so for this also, let's look at how you are going to do this. You are going to compute the limit of the exponent first, then you compute the limit of what the base also first, then you find the actual limit. Okay, so looking at the limit for the exponent, you are going to have the limit as x approaches minus infinity for x to the power 4 minus 5 x squared plus 1. Okay, so let's try the direct substitution here. So if you do direct substitution, you are going to have minus infinity to the power 4, okay, minus 5 multiplying minus infinity squared plus 1. Okay, and then if you simplify this, you're going to have infinity minus what? Infinity plus 1. Okay, this is what you are going to have. Okay, so now for what we have here, okay, our problem will not be the 1. Okay, the 1 will not be our problem. This is because 1 is just a value. Okay, but our problem will be the infinity minus what? Infinity, because you don't know what that is. Okay, we can't tell whether the first infinity is bigger than the second one. Okay, just now. Okay, those values are not specific values, so we can't tell what this value will be actually. Okay, so you have to find another way to compute this limit. Okay, since we can't tell what the answer is now. Okay, so you realize that our problem was the our problem was from the first two terms, right? So what you are going to do is that you are going to focus on the first two terms. Okay, look at what you are going to do. So we have x to the power 4 minus 5x squared plus 1, right? So our main problem was the first two terms. Okay, so I'll do some factorization here. So for the first two terms, I will write them as x to the power 4 bracket open 1 minus 5 over x squared. Okay, then I'll bring my plus 1. Okay, so I've rewritten the expression. Okay, so at this point, let's try the direct substitution again. Okay, so if you do the direct substitution, you're going to have minus infinity to the power 4. Okay, bracket open 1 minus 5 divided by minus infinity squared. Okay, bracket close plus 1. This is what you are going to have. Okay, so from here, you see that this value here will be equal to 0, right? And then raising minus infinity to the power 4 will give us a value of what? A positive infinity. Okay, and then you are going to multiply it by this one, which will still give us infinity plus what? The 1. Okay, so at the end, our answer will be what? Infinity. And then this is much more specific than what we had earlier on. Okay, so the limit of the exponent, okay, will be equal to infinity. Okay, so for the base, you are going to have the limit as x approaches minus infinity for e. Okay, and then this will be the same as what? E, since e is just a constant. Okay, so in all, our limit will be equal to e to the power what? Infinity. Okay, and then you know this will be equal to what? Infinity from the explanation I gave at the beginning of this video. Okay, so that will be the answer for this question also. Let's look at the last example. Okay, so this is the last example we are going to solve. So let's go ahead and do that. Okay, so we have this exponential function here. Let's look at how you are going to find the limit as x approaches infinity. Okay, so let's try the direct substitution and see what you are going to get. So you're going to have e to the power 10 multiplying infinity minus 4. Okay, multiplying e to the power 6 times what? Infinity plus 3 multiplying e to the power what? Infinity plus 2 multiplying e to the power minus 2 times what? Infinity minus 9 multiplying e to the power minus 15 times what? Infinity. Okay, this is what we have. Okay, so let's simplify this and see what you are going to get. Okay, so in simplifying this, for the first term, you are going to have infinity. And then for the second term also, you're going to have minus infinity. Okay, and for the third term also, you're going to have what? Infinity. And then for the For the fourth term, okay, 2 multiplying e to the power minus 2 times what? Infinity will give us 0. Okay, and then for the last one also, minus 9 times e to the power minus 15 times what? Infinity will also give us what? 0. So we're going to have what? Minus what? 0 here. Okay, so this was the answer you got after doing the direct substitution. Okay, but you know that this cannot be a specific answer because we don't know what infinity we don't know what infinity minus infinity plus infinity is, right? The last two terms didn't give us any problem because they are all equal to 0, but it was the first three terms that were giving us problems. Okay, so that means that you have to find a way and then deal with what? That part. So let's look at how you are going to do this. Let me free up some space so that we can continue. Okay, so what you're going to do is that you're going to do some factorization here. Okay, so let's look at that. So we have e to the power 10x minus 4 times e to the power 6x plus 3 times e to the power x plus 2 e to the power minus 2x minus 9 e to the power minus what? 15x. Okay, but we know that the last two terms didn't give us any problem. Okay, so we can leave those two terms alone. Okay, so now let's look at the first three terms. Okay, you have to do some factorization here. Okay, so to do this factorization here, I will factor out the highest power of what? E. Okay, if I say the highest power, we have 10x, 6x, and then x. Okay, so the highest power will be 10x. So we are going to factor that out. Okay, so in doing this, you are going to have e to the power of 10x, right? Then bracket open, you are going to have 1 here. Okay, so what will happen is that we are going to divide each of the terms by what? The term with the highest what? Exponent. That's what we are doing. Okay, so we are going to have, first of all, we will have e to the power 10x divided by what? E to the power 10x. That's why we have what? 1 here. Okay, so that's how come you got the 1. Okay, so you factor out the e to the power 10x and then you have 1 in the bracket. Okay, so let's look at what is left. So for that one, you're going to have you're going to have 4 times e to the power 6x divided by e to the power 10x. Okay, this will be equal to 4. That would be 4, okay, times e to the power 6x minus what? 10x, okay. And then if you simplify this, you're going to have 4 times e to the power what? Minus 4x, okay. So that would be for the second term. So you're going to have 4 times e to the power minus 4x here, okay. So let's look at the third one also. Okay, so for the third one also, we are going to have 3 times e to the power x divided by e to the power 10x, right? So this will be equal to 3 times e to the power x minus what? 10x, right? So if you further simplify this, you're going to have 3 times e to the power minus 9x. Okay, so you're going to have plus 3 times e to the power minus 9x. Okay, so that would be our factorized form. Okay, so let me clean up this space. Okay, so now you're going to have that plus 2 times e to the power minus 2x minus 9 times e to the power minus 15x. Okay, so you see that we only focused on the part that was giving us what? Problems. Okay, so now that you have this new expression, let's try the direct substitution again. Okay, so now let's try the direct substitution. Okay, so if we do that, you are going to have e to the power 10 multiplying infinity, okay, bracket open, 1 minus 4 times e to the power minus 4 multiplying what? Infinity, okay, plus 3 times e to the power minus 9 multiplying what? Infinity, okay, bracket close, plus, okay, so for this one we know that they are going to give us 0, okay, because we did the test initially. So let's just bring plus 0 minus what? 0 here. Okay, so now let's focus on the terms that we transformed. Okay, so we know that 4 times e to the power minus 4 multiplying infinity will give us 0. Same for this also. Okay, so those two terms are going to become 0. Okay, so let's finish this up. Okay, so now we are going to have e to the power 10 multiplying infinity. Okay, bracket open, 1 minus 0 plus 0. Okay, plus 0 minus what? 0. This is what you are going to have. Okay, so we know that e to the power 10 multiplying infinity will also give us what? Infinity. So we are going to have infinity multiplying 1. Okay, minus what? 0 plus what? 0. This is what you are going to have, and then this will give us a value of what? Infinity. Okay, so therefore the limit of the given function as x approaches infinity, okay, will be equal to what? Infinity.